Welcome to this extraordinary general meeting, extraordinary meeting of the Council, and obviously it is to discuss the Easter Sunday trading policy. So we have apologies from, could I also advise you that this meeting is being live streamed and it also is being recorded for record purposes. So we have apologies from Councillors Jeffrey and Wright, who have both expressed a conflict of interest. Are there any other conflicts of interest around the table? There's none. There's no public forum as such. No announcements by the Mayor. Any announcements by management?
I'm going to move the apologies.
No? Oh, apologies. Yeah. Oh, moved by Councillor Bogue, seconded by Councillor Price. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. So there's no announcements by the Mayor or management. So we move directly on to item 1, which is the Easter Sunday trading policy. It is moved by Councillor White. Do I have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor McGrath. We will now move to hearing the submissions and come back to that item once we've heard all the submissions. So our first submitter this morning is Steph Kennard from the Napier City Business Incorporated. Welcome, Steph. Can I just advise all submitters that you have 10 minutes. You will be given a bell at 9 minutes and a double bell at 10 minutes. Thank you. Steph, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Back again. Earlier this week I talked about Napier City Business and the membership that we look after. Just for the purposes of this morning, we are the CBD Business Association, look after 400 businesses within the actual a very small boundary in town, and within there is about 2,000 staff. This in front of us here is our membership makeup for within the town itself. So half of our membership is retail, which is made up of both chains and independent stores, and then the rest is hospitality, health and beauty, business services, and a few other smaller areas there. So this submission that I've made is on behalf of the 50% of our retailers who are members. Who for the past 2 years have been able to open on Easter Sunday alongside many of the other 50%, for example, hospitality. I'm not going to go over the whole submission again that I've put in. This is a very brief summary about it. We're also aware that in putting the submission together that many of our members have differing views about Easter Sunday trading, and so we're representing them all, and the fairest way in order to do that was actually to do it via an independent survey and ask them some key questions around how they feel about Easter Sunday. So 2 years ago we surveyed the same membership with a slightly lower response rate than we have for the 2018 survey. And that survey simply asked, would you support a policy that gives you the option to trade on Easter Sunday? The results of that, we had 70 people come back and 66% were in favour of supporting a policy that allowed trading on Easter Sunday. This year we hired an independent research company called SIL Research, which is based in Browning Street, and they set about researching and surveying our entire membership, and it was a fairly rigorous process, and it was done via many different means: electronic, phone, email, actually walking in, and it was across the membership, so it wasn't just people that owned the businesses, it was also the staff as well. And this survey asked 2 separate questions. Do you support being given the option to open? And secondly, would you consider opening on Easter Sunday next year? So our survey findings, we had 251 unique business responses across the membership, and a total of 259 responses. Of these responses, 182 supported the option, with 77% not supporting. This is 77, so that's a 72% versus 28%. The main reasons for their positive response are that they 51%, so half, feel they should have the right to choose and be given the option that it's up to them whether they open. 21% said it's good for business and 19% said there's demand. Of the 196 respondents who supported being given the option, 59% would consider opening, so slightly less than wanting the option. So that's actually just pointing out that they want to retain the option doesn't necessarily mean they actually do want to open on the day. They just want to know that it's their choice. With regards to the 28% who were in the negative, 24%, so a quarter of them, of the against responses, actually don't open on a Sunday anyway, or it's not applicable to them. In 2018, our survey response had 259, and in 2016 we had 77, so it's a reflection that people have a vested interest in what happens for Easter Sunday trading, and we think that's indicative of our membership. So just lastly, I think our stance is on retaining the choice only. We're not suggesting that shops should be open or shouldn't be open. It's about giving them the option. The majority of stores that did open over the last 2 years are independent stores, so our national chains don't tend to open. They follow what happens at a nationwide level. These independent stores are generally owner-operated. 60%, so 190 of our 284 responses have staff under 5. Of numbers of under 5. So in all likelihood, on an Easter Sunday, it is them that is opening. It is in their own interest. This is about a choice, not an obligation. We're not asking them to open. We don't have a stance on that. It is about knowing that as a business, you can choose to open on a day that you may be able to. And hospitality, which is one of our other larger sectors of membership, is able to open on the day. And this is a personal opinion, but I don't see the difference between retailers being asked to open and hospitality who don't get that choice anyway, and many people who believe that shopping shouldn't be made available on Sunday will go to a hospitality provider and buy a coffee or a meal on the day, and those staff are in those stores. So that's my summary of the submission we put. It is about simply giving our retailers the choice on a day, and in particular because many of the ones that will open are independent stores and will open in their own fruition. So thank you.
Any questions of Steph? Councillor Bowe.
Yes, thank you for that, Steph. I've just got a couple of questions. Do I just ask directly or through you?
No, directly.
Okay. Yeah. I meant to ask you the other day, of the, you say you represent all of the businesses. Yeah. Are all of them members, or what proportion are actual paid members?
They're all paid because they it's a, I call it a compulsory membership, because they actually, our funding is at the targeted levy, which is out from the rates. So
right.
It is 100% membership within.
Cool. Now the other question is, we've had Easter Sunday trading for 2 years now, and I wonder, do you have any statistics on who opened and how much income was generated from that? Because I thought that would have been a good opportunity for you to show, you know, how much it's actually meant to the local retailers.
I have purposely removed anything to do with revenue and financials from this, because it isn't about whether they make money. I think they will not open if it's not a viable option to them. It's about supply and demand. If there's no one there, the shops won't open the next year. The first year in 2017, about 25 stores opened. This year, 35 stores approximately opened. Out of the entire 180 retailers we have.
Thank you.
But anecdotally, in discussions with some retailers, they have said it's either traded on as a normal Sunday, or better than a normal Sunday.
Councillor Topoli.
Kia ora, Steph. Thank you for your presentation. 2 questions. Do you know, of the 400 members, what the percentage of part-time staff is within that? Would you say that more than half, less than half of your retailers are reliant upon part-time and casual staff? Or are they mostly owner-operator situations, no supporting staff?
I'm not, I don't have the clear statistics on part-time versus full-time. I do know the breakdown in the responses as to how many staff they do have in terms of the responses. So as I mentioned earlier, 67% have a staff of under 5, 19% have a staff of 6 to 9. The ones with large, we had less response from larger retailers, and for example, Farmers, as a national brand, chooses not to open on Easter Sunday, even if the option's there.
And that first percentage for the under 5?
67%
Thank you.
of our responses. Yeah.
Thank you.
Any further questions? Thank you for that presentation, Steph. Our next presenter is David Day.
Good morning.
David.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I am an Anglican priest in Napier South. The church is my life by choice. It is not everybody's choice nowadays, the church. The church's year. But for a long time, the church's year has guided or even governed what people may or may not do. The church does not control or be involved in everybody's life anymore. It's a small, probably 5, 10, 15%. So I see no reason why the church's year should govern whether there be any Easter trading or not. My only concern is for the employees to be fairly treated, to have a choice to work or not, and to be fairly reimbursed. But Easter trading, for me personally, is no problem. I'll be at church anyway. That's it.
All right. Any questions of David? Councillor Tapani.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So, straightforward question for you. I appreciate your differentiation between your dedication to your faith and your congregation, and your right to exercise or have the freedom to exercise personal choice. By extension, the Anglican Church in Napier holds the largest percentage of members at 19% of the population in Napier, according to 2013 statistics. Would you say that that your opinion is shared generally amongst other parishioners?
To be honest, we've discussed it in the church committee or the vestry. Probably half would be of the same feeling as me, and half would not.
And what would you say would be roughly the age spread of your constituency currently attending on an average Sunday?
Elderly.
Elderly. Thank you very much.
Any further questions, councillors? David, thank you very much for that short but direct comment. Well done.
Thank you.
Nessie Talaga. Welcome. I don't know whether you were here. Just a reminder, you have 10 minutes if you care to use it.
I thought get it extra because he finished early.
No, it's not cumulative.
Okay, all good.
And a ballot 9 and a double ballot 10.
Okay, all good.
Yeah.
Talofa, greetings to you all. My name is Gese Talaga. My husband and I look after the Samoan Congregational Christian Church, Efakasa in Napier, 4042 Riverbend Road. I'm also a manager of a Samoan language nest in the same complex or same address, and I hold a Bachelor of Early Childhood, Bachelor of Early Childhood Teaching. So my husband and I have been there for 8 years, going on to 9 years, and we have about 100 plus when it comes to seasonal work time, which is between November to May. It would be over 100 parishioners that are that attend our church, and because we are actually neighbours with, I've forgotten his name, that's just left. So we work together sometimes doing our worship or our church occasions. And Easter, as he had spoken, and I support, is a very important time of the year for Christians. As we all know, we have Easter Friday off for his death, so it only makes sense that it's a protocol that we continue on that remembrance of his death to his resurrection, which is on Easter Sunday. And for us to it's hard to say whether celebrate is the right word for it, for us to have that combined remembrance, we usually have it combined together with E Whakasa Hastings and Akina. So there is a, and if our parishioners are asked to work on these days, not only they won't be worshipping with us, they would have to, and if it's held in Hastings, it will be just Hastings and some of our people from Napier that will be involved in the celebrating or remembering the Easter celebration, which we all need to remember why we have those public holidays, which we don't have very many. And we have most of our workers, as you know, they work at the orchards and work very hard, and that's only a really few days that we get given as public holidays. And so we celebrate together, and we generally use those days, few days a year, to spend with families. And Pacifica families or Samoan families are quite big, you know, not the typical, you know. And so we would like to have all our families together to worship together and just to spend time together from all the years of working really hard to, you know, to cater for or to support families as such, because we don't only support our families here, but we also have families back home. I guess that's what, and I wouldn't mind if this is stream, I wouldn't mind if it's okay with you guys, because I do think a lot of our Samoan people are early immigrants into Napier, because I'm actually quite overwhelmed sitting here, because it's like a parliament meeting, you know. But I'm quite happy to sit here because I'm a New Zealand-born Samoan, and most of the Samoans that I've encountered and met in my 25 families and my preschool is very early immigrants, so very less English spoken, and trying to get to know the system and how, you know, the culture differences from moving from Samoa to New Zealand. So it's quite a big role that my husband and I, but I'm quite happy because once I was that person. I was born in Wellington, I grew up in Samoa, and I moved to New Zealand, Wellington, when I was 11 years old. So early childhood is quite vital, and when I say that, families from young age is very important, that they're with their mum and dads who are working, who possibly might be asked to work on a Sunday and not with them at church. Yeah, so that's my o te whia whailoa atu ma fuaanga wa o no whanua nei. O te whaftai fo I e o mwhai ona tu maile awanoa. Ona o le mafuaanga wa iei se iainga po se mau. E te tau ona tatala nisi o whale o loa I le aso sā. O le aso sā lea o le e seta. O le aso sā foi lea o lo wha awau e tatou nunga wha keri siano. E te tau ona tatou whamanatuina le toiso e fua mai o le Jesu Keriso. Ia o leo o maua i tātou leo le whawawau. Ia ai a whapea o le a whawhainga wenga nisi o tātou tangata i le aso sā. O le ale mawhai ai o lato awai i tātou whaalapo tutonga. Ia ai mai se fo i mawhutanga maa inga pe a whapea o le a aveni lato livi e malanga i isi atu nupe malanga fo i Samoa. O le ale mawhai ai lato ona maafuta, ona o le a iai lato le mamafa, o iai lato fo i le whatonunga mai lato whainga ruenga. E tatau ona whainga ruenga. Ia o se mafuanga nā mo au no whaia mau te whaftai foi, o na whaia o masui, o leo o tātou tangata, o lo ngā lulua e tutonu, o nei foi atunu. Ia, o saunoanga nā mo e foi o la mata pe whaalongo mai foi sa o leo. Ia, ma se mafuanga e wong no whai neno fo, pe foi li o se fono se palemene. E ma o au fia lava, o sau. O na e tele lava mea, tātou tele o loa ina, o tupu nei foi nu o tātou ngā lua ma tautua ai. Ia o se saunoanga nā mana o wawa, mana o whaalo lava, whaftai. Sorry.
Thank you for that. So, are there any questions?
Through the chair.
And what did you just say is not a good question?
Now, the Easter trading has been in place for the last 2 years. Did that affect your Easter Sunday at all?
Not that I'm aware of. In all honesty as well, I just didn't realise that people actually needed that one day to be.
So the question I'm asking:
did it affect us?
Did it affect you as a church group? Did any employees feel under pressure because they have a choice?
Yeah.
To work or not work and not be penalised. That's written into the law. So I'm just saying, was it noticeable last year that there were employees that had been affected by the fact that they were, the retailers were allowed to trade on Easter Sunday?
I think I'm probably 50-50 on answering because in all, I probably wouldn't have, because it's a massive, so we celebrate or we do our worship and then everybody goes home and had their kai and so I wouldn't have been able to literally go, oh, so-and-so didn't come to work today because they've had to work or, everybody came to work today because the spirit of it, you're in for so it's only now that I've actually taken time and thought, oh, well, it's true. So if we were to do that.
So what I'm asking is if a person in your congregation has the choice of working or not working and his religious beliefs are very strong, why would he choose to go to work if he's not forced to? That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, well, that's up to the individual because sometimes it's a financial thing.
So it's a choice?
Well, it's their choice.
Yeah, thank you.
Councillor Ross.
But we don't want it to be a choice that they might have to force to do it because one, they might either need the money or they might have to look after their children because, like I said, when we come to church, it's a mum and dad looking after their and so they need supervision and they need to be those role models for their children too, so they know what Easter Sunday is all about.
Councillor Brosnan.
Education from a young age, yeah.
Thank you very much for your submission. You talked a lot about the primary industry workers, a lot of them in your congregation, orchard workers and the like. Are they usually work on a Sunday, those sorts of industries? I'm just trying to understand whether those people are already on a normal Sunday. Some work and some don't?
Some do, some don't, but not all. I'm saying that some work at the orchards, but as I said, I'm a New Zealand-born Samoan. I like to see some of my youth coming through or some Samoans working at retailers so that, because I do kind of think sometimes it's a stereotype that they only work at the orchards, but we like to see them in the future be people who will be, employed by those.
Yeah. Thank you.
You know.
Thank you. One more quick question.
Very quick, which is just sort of a lead on. Thank you for your presentation. And what percentage of the Samoan congregation or your congregation would be involved in retail?
I did mention that we're early immigrants, so it's the young ones, it's the children that we like to see going into
Not
some of the
going in,
job.
but
Yeah.
currently would be working in retail.
Probably between 30 to 40 percentage. Yeah.
Thank you.
Like to see more, maybe.
Right, thank you very much indeed for your presentation. Our next submitter is Salvatore.
Thank you.
Good morning. My name's Salvatore. I'm originally from England. My heritage is from Italian, so I do follow my religion quite strongly. I'm Roman Catholic. So personally speaking, I obviously abhorred the thought of working on those days, but coming to New Zealand, I've had to work a few of them. I've also worked in Pack and Save. I've had my own business in Napier for a year, and I can see both sides of the coin from the perspective of, do we need to work? Do we need to make profit? Do we need to stay open? So I appreciate that. Working with my colleague over there, Mike, who's from First Union. I'm also a First Union delegate, and speaking to staff from my personal speaking to them, the survey that was held 2 years ago and a year ago, not all of the staff members were given the opportunity to speak in those surveys. I spoke to quite a few of the people that actually work on Sundays. From those people, I understand that it's not a question of being forced to work or being pressured by work. It's you believe you should work, so you just end up doing it because it's your scheduled time, and you just feel like, okay, I should really work because I'll be letting the team down if I don't. So it's not that the company's putting pressure on us, it's we feel obliged to. So we end up doing it because we don't want someone else to be forced into working it. In speaking to that, Countdown have been very good. They've asked if you want to work, and they've found other people to work it. And unfortunately, those people are the part-timers, and they feel that to make the extra hours, they have to work those hours because that's what they're being offered and that's what's on the table. So if they're being forced, no, they're not being forced, but they financially are being forced because there aren't enough hours otherwise. So there are two sides to both coins. In saying that, we, the union, would obviously we would support the staff if they didn't want to work. So again, there's a protection layer which we provide to our members. And again, Mike does that very well, and I get the great support from him. I also deal with other shops, and again, because I've been in retail, the money that I turned over through Easter when I was running a store wasn't worth opening, but I could only find that out after opening on a Sunday. So much to my disgust, I paid for staff and I paid for myself to actually open, which wasn't really worth it. I don't think there's enough in Napier on Easter Sunday for people to come here as tourists. So I think that's something that Napier has to look at for themselves. And until there's actually more going on in Napier for Easter, it's never really going to be an issue to say that to open is to make profit on that particular day, because it just wouldn't really happen. Because anyone that would stay at home would probably stay at home. Anyone that is religiously bound would go to church and have their family get-togethers after church. So again, they wouldn't be going out shopping as much. They'll be doing all the preparation of food and all the preparations for those celebrations beforehand. So those particular days wouldn't really be representative in the profit on that particular day. Saying all those things, I think that's me. Spoke my mind.
All right. Any questions of Salvatore? Councillor Taylor.
Salvatore, thank you. I'd be quite interested in your comment that retailers that I've spoken to say that they don't have trouble getting staff because they like the time and a half and the day off in lieu. What would you reaction to that be?
Well, that would count for me because I'm contracted to work on that particular day, so that would count for me for being the day in lieu and the time and a half. But if my manager said to me, you could have the day off and I find somebody else, that somebody else wouldn't be entitled to those benefits. So.
Could I just ask?
Councillor,
I understood that it wasn't time and a half on Easter Sunday. It's not.
Isn't now, no.
It isn't, no. So it's just the regular pay.
It is down to the company to say that if they want to do that, they can.
Right.
And we're lucky enough to have a company that does occasionally give that provision for us.
Is that the supermarket?
Yeah, Countdown.
So the supermarket's all open on Easter Sunday, do they?
Well, we have two in Napier, as you know.
Yeah.
The Napier one is the one that's closed, one in Carlisle, and we are actually opened. So, yeah. And like I say, what happened in other countdowns, some of the staff again wanted to work, and as a big group of Countdown, we spoke to other stores and said, okay, what are you doing? Oh, we're closing, but we're going to have a stock take, or we're going to have a quick checkup. If you've got any spare staff, so staff could go from another store to go and work in a store that was actually not necessarily open, but active, so they could still earn the same money they would do if they were actually in their own store. So again, it's a quite a good representation to what they could do for us. But the store being opened sort of restricts that particular branch, because then we have to have a certain amount of head count to actually activate the needs of that store.
thank you. Councillor Haig.
Salvatore, thank you.
Okay.
So you've done a really good job about outlining both sides of the argument, I think. So on balance, though, and sorry if I've missed this, if you had to make this decision, what decision would you be making?
I mean, I've made footnotes of things I would like to see Napier do. On a personal note, I'd say the Art Deco theme that Napier has is only presented in one small week that we have in our calendar. Why not introduce that as the Easter Art Deco week and bring more people into Napier? Then we would have a good reason to actually stay open for some of the smaller stores and make money for the local people. At the moment, they're trading with their arm tied behind their back because there's not enough going on. So they're opening because they're trying to make money, but it's difficult to make money when there's no tourists or no reason to actually come to Napier.
Okay, so fundamentally you don't necessarily have a problem with stores being given the option to open. It's just that you're not feeling at this stage that there's enough activity to warrant that happening.
I don't think some of the bigger stores need to be opened.
Yeah.
I mean, I agree that some of the smaller stores should stay open because they can cover the amount of people that are in Napier at the time. For the sort of retail that we sell, again, like I say, most of those celebrational preparations are done in advance. So on the day, people aren't going out thinking, oh, I need to buy some things to celebrate Easter. You would have already spent that money. So on the day, I don't think there's a big turnover increase. I think it's the build up to it and the after effect if people are still staying in Napier. We do see a difference, like Art Deco, we see a huge increase in picnic type things being sold a week before. But through Art Deco, it's just the small drinks and chips that are being sold. You know, so the turnover is different in each week.
Right, thank you.
Councillor Wise.
Thank you, through the chair. Thank you for your submission, Salvatore. You mentioned that some staff actually do want to work. Do you have a feel for what that split, that percentage would be between staff that are wanting to work and staff that aren't?
Speaking for the team that I work with, there's 7 of us that work on a Sunday, and we work night fill. So we're working either the Sunday night, or some of the staff are working through Saturday into Sunday. So we're restricted to what we can do on the Sunday because we're either trying to catch up with our sleep or we're sleeping before we go to work. So I think there's about 14 people I spoke to within the 2 stores, Napier and Countdown, and they want to work, but they're not happy with the working on that particular day because they don't have time to spend with their family. So I would say it's probably about 60-40 to say that 40 wouldn't want to work, but they feel they need to make up the hours.
Any further questions, councillors? Councillor Tapani.
Thank you very much, Salvatore. Do you think there would be any advantage in considering a part permission on the use of trading on Easter Sunday within the city and a prohibition in other areas? For example, maybe a focus in the CBD area where there's a larger collection of our smaller businesses and where we expect most of our tourists to hang around, I guess, and visitors versus, say, big box centres further out from the city centre. So do you think there would be any advantage in a part permissive area within the city that was allowed to trade?
I can see the argument for it. I just don't see the point of it because, again, like I say, there's not enough going on in Napier to say that this is where people are going to be. And as a tourist, you wouldn't know that would be going on unless someone told you.
Okay, any more questions? Thank you very much indeed, Salvatore.
Okay. Thank you.
And Matt Edwards. Welcome, Matt. 10 minutes, one bell at 9, 2 bells at 10.
Thank you. I don't envy your task because you are going to get opinions from every aspect of this issue, and it won't be probably an easy decision for you. I don't come from a background in retail at all, and my submission to you is purely around the religious aspects of this issue. There is no instruction in the scriptures to actually observe Easter or, for that matter, Christmas. Easter is a religious festival, and I guess our forefathers decided when the country was mostly Christian orientated to bring in legislation to curtail normal activity at that time. But there is no Bible injunction for it. And in fact, Sunday is not actually a sacred day as far as our Creator is concerned. It never was. And most Christians have come up with the understanding that it is and may not have examined the actual scriptures closely. The Jews have it right. Saturday is the sacred day, not Sunday. And it actually starts at sunset on Friday night and finishes at sunset on Saturday. The other thing I want to say to you is that, more importantly, God does not compel our obedience, and neither should we compel people to do one thing or another when it comes to religious matters and religious belief. That is one of the great things about the Constitution of the United States, that the forefathers, the founding fathers, decreed that there should be no laws made respecting the establishment of a religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. You will be familiar with that. Our week actually comes from the 7-day cycle at the time when this world was created. 6 days to make everything and then 1 day for rest. So I just want you to be aware of that. My opinion is that people should be free to do what they want to on any day. But we must all acknowledge that the choices we make have consequences. Saturday is a sacred day. It's a very secular day, so is Sunday. There isn't much distinction now as there used to be when I was a boy, and Sunday was pretty much universally a day of quietness, not of sport. But New Zealand has changed so dramatically over the decades now that there's little difference between any of the days of the week. So you have a hard decision to make, but I want you to know that on religious grounds, allowing freedom to people to do what they want to on Easter Sunday does not come with any restrictions or otherwise from the Godhead. It is a day of work. It is the first day of the week, not the seventh. And it was the seventh that was commanded to be the holy day and a blessed day. That may have come as a surprise to some of you.
No, I appreciate you. I mean, I remember as a kid, my mother forbidding my father to mow the lawns on Sunday because you didn't make a noise and have a rowdy day on Sunday. I mean, it was just, life has changed, hasn't it? Are there any questions of Matt? I think you've actually surprised some, Matt, to be honest.
I hope you find it helpful.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. So any questions, councillors?
No, can't point.
There's not? Well, thank you very much for that presentation. It was...
There aren't a lot of people actually that observe Sabbath, but that's the way the world is.
Yeah.
But I will tell you that the issue of the worship day, I believe, will become a very contentious issue in the future.
We'll wait with bated breath.
It's just a matter of time.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, councillors and mayor.
Yeah.
Thank you, man. Thank you.
Mike McNabb.
Kia ora. Good morning. Thank you very much for the opportunity to come and speak to these submissions. Appreciate the fact that I can come here and represent the retail workers of the union today. Just a little bit of just a slight history of me. I'm a fourth generation Napierite. My family came in here on the longboats in 1876, and we've got a long historic heritage here. Today I sit and I have also, now we have a seventh generation of our family coming through, so I have some vested interest in this also. I've got some skin in the game, to be honest. So my job as a first union organiser is to represent the represent the retail workers, and you would have seen in my submissions we have over 250 workers, retail workers in this town. I am a cross-sector organiser, so I look after a number of other sites as well as industrial, but this is the segment of the unit that I look after here in the Napier section. That includes the pack and saves, the Tamatea pack and save, farmers, Cotton On, the warehouse, and other smaller retail outfits. At the moment, currently retail workers in Napier only guarantee 3.5 days off each year, and we really need to protect these days for these workers, and we don't really want to see them reduced. Families, whānau, communities should come before commerce at Easter. I won't go into all of the things around that because some of the others will probably speak with some of that and have done already. But growing up as a boy, I knew that family was very important, and Easter was a time that all the families could come together. Now, family is the fabric of our society, and today we're facing a breakdown of the fabric where you're finding, crime is getting out of control in some areas, and that is largely due to that breakdown. A lot of the retail workers that I've spoken to have felt that working on Easter Sunday, that if you're a little worker working in a little business, and I'm speaking for some of those little people who aren't even in the union, how difficult it is to say to the boss, no, I don't really want to work on Sunday, I'd like to have family time. They're going to feel obliged to work for the boss. And also, and I do see this in my job, sometimes people feel that if we don't we're not subdued and adhere to what the boss says, then our promotion aspects might be limited if I say no. One of the things I find is that workers' wages are low and hours are lean. So therefore, when they're asked to work, or would be asked to work Easter Sunday, sometimes they say yes, for the money, because life is not that great for them. But it's an important thing to understand that, yes, they might have a choice to say no to work the Easter Sunday, and they do have the opportunity to take a personal grievance against their boss, but most of them don't have the money to do that, because if you go to an employment lawyer, you know, it could cost you between $200, $300, $800 an hour for their services, and the process of the personal grievance is such a long period of time. Sometimes it can take up to 3 years if you're going to go to the ERA. So we're talking about some of these very vulnerable workers that are very limited. Some are limited in further skills that they may have other than retail, and not to demise any of that. You know, the union believes is that, and we've seen it, that pressure will be exerted on the individual workers to work the Easter Sunday. Workers will be told that she is not a team player. They may be passed over for promotion, as I've said, and may not get performance-based pay rises. And I've seen that. And some workers in some of these businesses, it's 8 or 9 years before they get a pay rise because their appraiser was not up to scratch for various reasons, and it might just be that they've had a sick day. But to conclude, you know, without going into all the detail of that submission, families and whānau day and time together is most important, regardless of the religious aspect of the others, and that's great. But people need that opportunity to do that. I would like to see the union would like to see those workers having, obviously they've got the choice to do that or not, but we don't believe this is a good thing for you to do in our town. Looking forward to the next generations of your children and your grandchildren and those to come before you and after you. It's really important that you think of that rather than just the commerce and the money side of things. It's what are we doing for that next generation? Do we want to see a continuance of the fabric of our society beginning to continually be ripped apart? I don't want to see that. And this Easter Sunday doesn't have the time and a half or the loo day provided, but it gives a retail worker, that 4 days, if they have that Easter weekend off, to say, hey, I'm going to go and visit family in other parts of the country, and it's a time for that family to come together as well. So we're not just looking regionally, you know, this is looking nationally as well. And I know it's difficult for all of you, and I appreciate it and sympathise around that. That's the government that's given you the task of working through this one. When, you know, we believe as a union that it should be the government that's giving a clear direction instead of putting it in your poor baskets, you know, to deal with from all angles. So I do appreciate that. So I appreciate today that you'll listen to what I have to say around this, that I have got some submissions here, which I won't go into, by retail workers about some of the pressures that they felt to have to work last Easter Sunday. But one of the things I'd like to just present today, and I'm happy to hand this over, is I've got over 400 signatures from the community and workers in these retail stores that oppose the Easter Sunday opening of the retail stores, so they can have their say at the table today, as well as they've had that opportunity for submissions as well. So I'm happy to give you these if you want them.
So can I just ask?
Yep, sure.
Did you actually survey your members?
On my rounds and my job, yes, and I've had delegates such as Salvatore that you've just spoken to, spoken with them, and they've spoken to their members.
So it's an informal survey rather than a formal survey?
Pardon?
It's an informal survey rather than a formal survey?
Correct.
Yeah.
But it just generally gives the feeling of the people.
Yep. Councillor McGrath, then Councillor White.
Sure.
Yeah, Mike, I'm just trying to get my head around a few facts and figures. Now, you've said there's 250 that you represent.
In this area here.
In Napier. That's the whole of Napier, including Taradale and Only Power Shops and all the different retailers?
Yep.
If the retailers were to open, what percentage of those workers would you represent then that have to work on that day? Because not everyone gets called in on that one day. So how many would it affect?
I can't give you the percentage, but it would be primarily the supermarkets and the larger businesses, and they have a bulk of the people. That'd be correct. The smaller businesses only have 1 or 2 people, 3 people.
Do you have any figures on how many people in Napier currently work on Easter Sunday and all the other vocations or jobs?
That's a task too big for me to do on my own, to be honest.
Where I'm heading, I was just trying to look at what percentage change that would be by adding in the retailers for that one day.
Sure, and I appreciate what you're saying regarding that, but I don't have the facilities or the resources to run a survey like that. It's just too big a task for me.
Councillor White.
Thank you, Mike. You're right. The decision should have come from central government about this, and I concur with you 100% on that. Just going back to your number about the 250 retail workers, what we're looking at today, because supermarkets really fall outside, because they've already got their rules around this. This is about the retail aspect of it today, really. And within the retail, CPD retail, how many out of that 250 would be there? I think Councillor McGrath was trying to get that as well.
Okay, sure. Just in the CBD area, so you've got a number of those businesses. I can't give you those figures, but it's quite a high figure because the other areas, Taradale and Enemy, is it?
Yeah. Look, answer that one, and there's 2 more questions, which I think was Councillor Haig and Councillor Price. So no, we'll see that.
Thank you for that.
Yeah. So what I'm.
So the largest amount is in this area. So if you had 250, right. You're probably looking at a couple of hundred.
Okay. So within that, it's the same question I asked the lovely lady from the Samoan church.
Yep.
How many complaints or grievances did you get last year?
I didn't raise any. No, none were raised with me apart from the people that spoke to me when I was on my rounds and to the delegates in those stores, and I've got a very good network.
So are you able to highlight those grievances that you say that many of them need to work for the money, and obviously some of them won't have religious beliefs, so it's just another day for them.
Yep.
So as a critical mass, how many do you think are just affected on that day within your retail group?
I can't give you an exact figure, but the feedback I've had is there was a few. There was quite a few.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Right. Can we have Councillor Price, Tapani, and Haig?
I'll be very quick.
Yes.
Just to clarify a point, you said you got 250 members, but you got a petition with 400 on it. Was that a open petition, was it?
Yeah, correct. So as I said, it was the community and members of the retail.
So the people outside your jurisdiction, would they have put submissions in today?
No, I made sure it was only for the Napier area.
So that's the correct procedure someone outside your area probably should have done, is it?
Sorry,
should have made a submission?
Outside of my area?
Well, no, you had 250 people that in your union, but you've got a petition with 400 on it.
That's right. Okay, so that's just the feeling of the community locally, the people in the community who would be retail shoppers and those members as well.
So the difference is your petition is made up of both employees and people that would support the retail shops if they were open?
No,
so members of the public.
That would not support the retail shops.
Or would not,
yeah,
all right.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, correct. I wanted to have an honest balance about it.
I just couldn't work out.
Yeah, sure, thank you for that question, yeah. I just wanted to have a balance of, what do the people say as well as what do the retail workers say.
Just before we take Councillor Tuppeny, did you have a point of clarification question?
Yes, just with reference to Councillor White's question around supermarkets, perhaps a question for council officers. It was my understanding supermarkets are covered off on what we're deciding on today. It's not excluded. Sorry, I thought you'd said that supermarkets sit outside.
Yeah, they're covered. Yeah, they're already covered.
Yeah, but they are part of the people we're making a decision on today.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, Councillor Tuppeny.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor.
Thanks for your efforts. Given the increase in costs in living and the fact that wages aren't necessarily keeping up with those living costs, so what I want to speak to is less around trying to quantify specifically percentages.
Sure.
You mentioned that you spoke with a number of people who you share an interest with around some of the pressures and impacts that they feel when having to face this decision particularly. And earlier today we heard that up to 86% of our retail sector in the CBD employ up to 9 people, which would indicate that they have a very high amount of part-time staff. So the legislative law enables you to choose when you're in a good position employment-wise to be able to say, no, I'll take the time and a half, etc., or I'll take the time off. But if you're a part-time and casual person, which typically tends to be the makeup of the employers within our retail and our hospitality sector, the pressures to make a decision are more significant. So if you're really working low hours on a low wage and you're offered to work on a public holiday, would you say that the pressures or options are far more reduced for people in that space as opposed to those who have the freedom to be able to take annual leave on that day? I'm just conscious of the fact that a person on a low wage with low hours is going to seize as much money as they can in order to meet the rising costs of living. So would you say that despite the fact that there's a law which provides you with a choice, is that choice actually freely available to everybody in an employment situation based on your engagement with the community?
So they have a choice, obviously, as you've alluded to. There's not time and a half on that day, on that Easter Sunday. It's not a statutory holiday at all. And generally, the people that I would speak with, the members, they would prefer to have the family time rather than the money, because the family time is of more value to them. It depends, obviously, on their circumstances. And obviously, as I've talked about, if the boss says, we'd like you to work, then generally, and to go back to your question to the Samoan lady, generally the Samoan community will always say yes to the boss and, do the job because they want to please. They're a very pleasing culture, which you would obviously know about. But the people want to have the freedom of not just having that choice of giving a certain amount of notice if they're not going to work. They want to just have that day off.
Right, one more question. Hopefully it's a brief one and a brief answer, please.
Mike, I've worked as a union field officer, so I empathise with your role and have some knowledge of it. Around the ability, so my understanding is retailers specifically have protection under the law to say no if they don't want to work, and other people don't have that protection. You're saying it's difficult anyway, even though that's there and people feel pressured. Surely it's the role of the union, though, to support those people if they are feeling pressured, to work with employers to make sure they understand the provisions of the bill. And if it's not working all over, isn't it the job of government and unions to sit down and say, why isn't this being implemented properly and what can we do about it? So to me, that's a bigger issue than just whether we open on Easter Sunday or not.
I think you're right. It's about the government and the union sitting down together and addressing that. And as a union, we do proactively try to get out there and make sure people know their rights. But if we make bylaws around these things, then it's not as easy for them. It's better for the government and the unions to sit down at a higher level.
Thanks.
All right, thank you very much for your presentation, Mike. Councillors, we're going to take a break now, and I see we're due to start again at 10:30. Can I ask you if you're back a little before that, please, so we can pick up a bit of time as well. So
I've got these signed petitions. Where would you like them?
I'll take those.
Thank you.
So, if we can be back somewhere 10:20, 10:25, somewhere around there, please.
Thank you, Richard.